Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Springfield. Beginning in 1958 and continuing in 59 and 60, the Ford Motor Company made 118,000 Edsels, then discontinued the line. For years, Edsel was synonymous with failure, but now if you take an Edsel to a car show, you've got a group of people lined up to see it, as the Edsels Owners Club discovered recently in Springfield. Herb, just as I was walking around the car a little earlier, I saw a couple of the judges standing here, and of course they're looking at all the cars because they're going to give some awards, I guess, today, and they were looking at this red one. I asked them about it. They said, that's the perfect car right there, and they pointed at your red Edsel.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think they're being a little generous, but...
Well, you must be really proud of it.
I am. I mean, it turned out really good, but that's what we wanted. You know, since it's an oddball car, it's one that you don't see at local cruise-ins or anything else. When I got it, it needed a lot of work, but I wanted it done to be just like it came out of the factory, and in this case, a little bit better. But we have everything correct, that we know of. I mean, according to some people, there are people they don't know the answers.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah. Now this is the '58 Pacer. Is that right?
Yes.
And this was what, low, middle, or high end of the Edsel?
You had four models. You had the Ranger, which was the low end, and that's the green car over there is the Ranger.
Some of those, yeah.
And the Pacer was the next in line, and those two models were made on the Ford Fairlane assembly lines.
Ah.
The bigger cars, these were the small cars. The bigger cars were the Corsair and the Citation. Citation being the high end. It had more trim, it was a lot bigger. And they were made on the Mercury assembly lines.
What did this car look like when you got it?
To be honest with you, if I showed you an old picture, you'd say it looked just like this.
Oh, really? So it wasn't a wreck or anything?
Well, it was a wreck, but I mean, it was all rusted out in the rocker panels. When we got it, we couldn't see it, but whoever had this car a while back, the rocker inner and outer rocker panels were completely eaten out, and they had inserted 2x4s in there,
wow,
sealed it up and undercoated and everything, so you couldn't see. So the whole car was not held together by anything but those 2x4s. The floors were rotted out, which I knew. The underside of the headlights, which was standard, they were pretty much rotted out.
What about the interior?
The interior, it was in good shape. They redid the upholstery, but it was the wrong pattern. So
you had to redo that too?
I redid the interior, and I made sure that, I mean, all the gauges were there. Some of them didn't work.
Did you insist on getting a convertible? Was that your dream?
No, it just happened to be one, but
really?
I like convertibles.
You're glad about that?
Oh yeah, I like hardtops too, but I would prefer to have a convertible anytime.
Yeah. Now, this is a personal question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Do you have any idea what it costs to restore this car?
I have a general idea. I haven't looked at all the receipts, though. I
love your shirt. I want to see your shirt. I had money at one time, right? Before I got this car.
Yeah, my wife got me that. This was the original. This is what it looked like originally. So you can see
it looked good. It looked good.
I mean, if you looked at it, it looked pretty good. Yeah. But when you got into it, it was a wreck. It really was a wreck.
Well, it's beautiful now, and I have a feeling you'll be taking a trophy home.
So. Well, it's nice, you know. It's like you said. I feel good that.
Yeah.
And Rich, the other fellow that's with me, he owns the body shop, and
he did a lot of work.
He does excellent work. Yeah. I mean, the sheet metal, the painting, you know, those things are his specialty, and he loves to do it. And he takes his time with it. He's very meticulous.
Good man to know.
So he is.
Hey, thanks, and good luck with your car.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Jim Arnold, we are looking at the interior of this '58 Edsel, and we're looking at the center of the steering wheel. Right. And you had a very novel design. You were on the design team for this first year of the Edsel, and it was a very unique design. What are we looking at the middle of that steering wheel?
Buttons.
Buttons, what do they do?
They went away, except I just got a Lincoln today. Yeah. The buttons are back on there again.
Those were transmission shift buttons.
Well, the others I've got are the same ones. They're on the Lincoln.
But this was a first. Nobody had done that
That's
before.
what I'm saying.
It was your idea.
I'm way ahead of people.
You were way ahead of people.
Oh, by the way, I did that too. This.
Did what?
They started putting things on the outside. I did that
You
one.
mean this design of this mirror?
Yeah, did that.
But mostly you were an interior designer, right? For the interior of the car.
Well, I went out for just about 2 or 3 months on the exterior. I even started drawing. I've got some drawings I did on exterior cars, which never happened. But when I finally left, I took the pictures with me. Yeah. And now I've designed some of them, just painting and drew them after I've quit.
Yeah, just having fun with it.
Just having fun. That's what the cars would look like.
If we look at the back in the interior where those seats are.
Yeah.
You didn't get credit for this, but you actually designed the 1/3, 2/3 design of the front seat, right?
Yeah. Even Roy didn't say anything about this. When I finally joined this club about 8 years after I came over here. He showed that seat, and I'm thinking, I almost stood up and said, "Wait a minute,
that's mine. I did that." But the transmission buttons on the middle of the steering wheel, that was your idea to make it easier to shift the car in and out of gear.
Yep.
And then you had the radio.
Yeah,
the radio buttons were new, weren't they?
Yeah, people were hurting their knees. They would hit that thing, if you had a wreck.
The radio was sticking out.
Well, you didn't have straps around you.
Yeah. And so you recessed the buttons. Huh?
Recessed that too.
Was it fun working on the Edsel project?
It was enjoyment. If you go around, you got ideas, and you see it, it makes you happy. It did me.
Because it was new?
No, just because I was the one that did it.
So, but you love designing cars, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love designing anything. If I could do it.
But the Edsel's really distinctive because they only made them for 3 years, and it was a new concept in 1958.
That's right.
So when you got named to that design team, did you go, "Oh yeah," or "Uh-oh"?
Well, you're the one I was talking to about cars. People, I've decided now that putting out new cars every year is just out of control.
You mean because people can't absorb that much?
That's right. So I got magazines now, collectible automobiles. I look back in the car. One of the cars that I really like, they're back in the magazine again. All the cars I seem to really like are now in that magazine. Yeah. So I said, well, why am I going back and looking at all these cars that have been built? The ones that I look back on that I like the most are the ones that are coming back to the... Yeah. And then better than that, a lot of people drive them.
I don't think the Edsel's ever coming back, though, do you? They're never going to make the Edsel again.
Oh, no.
Never say never,
no.
but...
No, but I think these are going to... There's a lot of them still out there, I guess. Maybe people will keep...
100,000 or so, but that doesn't seem like a lot to me.
Well, if they're collectible automobiles, then they're famous.
Yeah. You don't drive one, do you?
I've never owned one.
You've never owned one?
No.
Not that crazy about them, huh?
Well, no, they'd send me off somewhere else so much. I couldn't afford it in the whole 6 years I was here, but after that, I started going up and getting other cars, and I finally bought a Ford about 7 years after I worked there, after this was over. Yeah.
Reg Brown, this car is very significant because it belongs to you now, but it belonged to your dad, who was, the chief designer on the Edsel project?
They call him chief stylist of the Edsel program. He got this assignment in Henry Ford's office in 1953. And Ford wanted to build another medium-priced car because they had one medium-priced car, General Motors had 3. So they built 2 sizes of Edsels. They built this one on a Ford body.
And this is a 58?
This is a 58. Okay. And they built that one on a Mercury body, which was a little bigger. Then they, then they priced this between a Ford and a Mercury, and that one between a Mercury and a Lincoln. So now they've got 5 price ranges of cars, just like General Motors. Problem is that the medium price field that they had just put 2 new cars into died between 1953 and 1958.
Yeah, the Edsel wasn't the only one that went out. Lots of cars went away, didn't they, during that period?
Packard died in 1956. Studebaker died. Hudson, Nash, and DeSoto. Everybody remembers the Edsel because it was a new kid on the block.
Well, and you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like the Titanic or something. People liken this to one of the greatest failures in automotive history, but it was pretty normal. Action cars didn't last forever, did they?
Oh no! And other than the outside sheet metal and a few gadgets and gimmicks like the push-button steering wheel and the compass type speedometer and some of the outside design of it, underneath, that's a Ford.
Yeah, yeah. Now, your dad worked on this project, and then, like, the Edsel went away. And we always hear that, wow, it lost Ford a lot of money. But your dad got another, I love this story, because your dad got another assignment not long after this, right?
In August of 1959, when the Edsel was just about on its way out, they sent him to Ford of England. He went over there, he built a new styling center, he totally restyled the whole Ford line for Ford of England. In 1962, they brought out a new car called the Cortina, which was what we would call a compact car.
Big over there, though.
They sold 3 million of those.
Is that right?
They sold 118,000 of these. So he always said, I made a lot of money for Ford Motor Company. It just took me 2 cars.
How much did they lose on the Edsel?
They lost $250 million on this one and made billions on the other one.
Billions. Okay. So your dad was a good investment for Henry Ford, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. and after he came back to the States, Henry Ford walked in. He was working in the Lincoln studio at the time, and Henry Ford walked into his office, and said, Roy, I don't know the exact quote, but basically what he says is, Roy, I want you to know that I was happy with what you did. It was bad timing. It was bad marketing. That was a good car and a good design. And my dad says, well, I always knew it was a good design. He says, there's not a bad, one of his favorite sayings is, there's not a bad line on that car. And you go around to the back of this car. The taillights are right up in the top of the fender. At that time, Chevrolet's taillights were down here in the bumper. If you got within 20, 30 feet of a Chevrolet, you can see the taillights. When you got those taillights up in the top, where do you find brake lights on a car today? Right?
As high as can be.
As high as can be, right in the bottom of the back window. He was 30 years ahead, no, 50 years ahead of his time.
I bet he had fun.
If you ask my dad what he did for work, he said, let's see, I worked in a gas station when I was 18, and that's the last time I worked.
Good for you.
And then I got out of art school, and I played the rest of my life.
That's terrific. Well, Henry, you got a lot to be proud of.
Well, thank you.
If we move you out from in front of your car there, we get a good look at it, because it is red, red, red. Did you choose the color, or did it come that way?
Yes, I chose the color.
Yeah. Did you get it painted yourself?
I painted it myself.
You painted it yourself?
Yes.
Really? So you do a lot of this work yourself on this car? Tell me about the car, the year, and the model, and all that kind of stuff.
It's a 1959 Edsel Ranger 4-door sedan. It was the bottom of the line in 1959. The Corsair was the top of the line. I have one of those also.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Do you have any other Edsels?
I have 5. They're like Pringles. You can't just have one.
Now the others, are they running?
3 are running.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are in restoration process.
You know, we haven't looked under the hood of one of these yet. Would you show us just what the motor looks like?
Sure.
The engine?
This is a 361 V8, 303 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque.
Would this have been typical of all 3 or 4 models that they made, or?
They had 4 different engines in the 59. They had the 223 6-cylinder, 292 V8, 332 V8, and 361 V8.
So you have the most powerful one.
Yes.
Okay. And this would have been in this car. You didn't put a modified engine in here. This
is the engine. That was in the 59 Edsels.
Is everything on this car just like original?
Pretty well. I try to keep everything original. Even this little section here that you see that is black, that was the original color combination.
all the grills from there in were supposed to be black, that grill piece. And you'll see other Edsels, that 59 Edsels, that are painted the same color as the body, which is not correct.
Yeah. Did you drive this here or tow it?
Yes.
You drove it, so it runs good. You have a lot of faith in it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I just redid the engine, transmission, and rear end. So
Did you do it yourself?
No, I had the engine rebuilt by a professional rebuilder.
Yeah. What kind of gas mileage do you get?
Surprisingly, between 14 and 15.
That's not so bad.
No.
That's what we used to get in those big old
And
8-cylinders.
I carry a lot of stuff with me.
Yeah, so it's weighted down, isn't it? Can we look inside?
Sure.
Okay, is there anything, what about the, now this is not upholstery, is it
That's what they call Naugahyde.
Vinyl? Naugahyde, okay.
Naugahyde.
Anything unusual about the dash or the controls or anything in this car?
Well, it was the same dash as a 59 Ford, but they put the Edsel, different Edsel things in it. The dash, as far as the chrome, was a different style than the 59 Ford. This is a standard shift, standard brakes, standard steering. So it was just a cheap model.
This would have been an affordable car, a family car.
Yes.
An affordable, right in the mid-range price.
They actually overpriced them. They were supposed to be priced between the Ford and Mercury line, and they were priced between the Mercury and Lincoln line. That was one of the things that sort of put a bend in their plans. And also in the 58, the push-button drive in the steering column gave them a lot of problems. The transmission motor was electric, and it was too light for the car. You'd park it on a hard hill, couldn't get it out of park.
How does it make you feel when the name Edsel is likened to failure? You know, because it's always it was a joke when I was growing up. You know, you'd call something an Edsel, which meant it just didn't get off the ground.
Right.
You know?
Well, I bought my first one in 1962, and I still have it. So the reason I still have it is nobody wanted it.
And aren't you lucky?
I am lucky.
Yeah.
I kept it, and I painted it twice, and now I'm in the process of painting it again. I have it sanded down to the bare metal again to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So.
Terrific. Well, this is beautiful. I sure appreciate you showing it to us.
Yeah, I did it all myself. Even the stainless steel I polished myself.
Wow.
The only thing I cannot do is the re-chroming.
Yeah.
That has to be done at a re-chroming shop, and that's very expensive.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Gene Weeks, during this program, we've been talking to folks that own different models of the Edsel, and most of them say that the Corsair, boy, that was the top of the line. That's the one that you wanted to have, and that's what you've got here, isn't it?
No, Citation was the top in,
really?
in 58. Yes.
Oh, and this is a 58 Corsair.
This is a Corsair. This is a 59 Corsair.
59 Corsair. Okay.
Yeah.
So yours is one step down from the. Did you say Citation? Is that what you said? Okay. All right. But this was a fancy car, wasn't it?
Well, yes, it was very, very. This was one of the better ones because of all the power. It's everything is power in it. The power seats, power windows, power brakes, power steering. So it just everything is power.
I didn't know that. I knew they had power steering and power brakes by 1958. I guess I didn't know they had power windows and seats.
There was a few power seats put in 58. It was special order, and this was one of the big shots cars. From
one of the Ford Motor Company big shot. Really?
And
how did you come? How did you come to own it?
Oh, about 20 years ago, a guy in Grand Rapids had it parked in the garage, and he was almost on his deathbed, and he put it in the paper for sale, and I went up and bought it.
Yeah. Did you always want an Edsel?
Oh, well, I've already had an Edsel.
Do you?
Oh, yes.
You own others?
Oh, yes. I have a Citation at home.
Oh, and that's the top of the line.
Oh, yes,
okay, all right. And which do you prefer, the Citation or this one?
One is the same as the other. They're just as good as the other.
Yeah.
Just,
do you drive both of them?
Oh, yes.
And they run well for you?
Oh, very, very good, yeah. The other one I drove to Bowling Green, Kentucky one time to a show. And
if you wanted to drive this one down here, you could have?
I could, yes, I could. The only thing, the temperature of the weather is the only reason I don't.
Okay, it's just a little too hot right now?
It's too hot. I have air conditioning in my truck, and I can
This is not air conditioning.
No, no. There's no
Isn't it interesting? They have all that power, but they don't have air conditioning in the cab.
There is a few that did have air conditioning, but not very many.
Can we look inside?
Oh, certainly.
Just lead us over there.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Right over here.
It's a beautiful color. This, would you call this turquoise? It's just lovely.
It is a turquoise, yes. Yeah. And white. So you have
and it matches the interior matches perfectly.
Power seat. You have power windows.
Yeah.
Everything power on the whole car. So it's
just beautiful, and a lot of chrome on the dashboard.
Oh yes, it has a strip of chrome all the way across that dash. If you're going with the top down, going away from the sun, it's worse than it is if you're going right at the sun, because it reflects right back in your face.
Yeah, it's time to put the top up if that happens.
Oh, I love it. Go with the top down.
I bet you do. I bet you get a lot of looks too.
Oh
don't you?
Yes, many a look. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
It's terrific. Thank you. It's beautiful. But Dave Kirkle, we're about to look at a model that we haven't seen before, the 1960 Edsel. But first, a look under the hood shows that this one has air conditioning. The other ones we saw didn't.
Yes, it does. It's pretty scarce. They didn't make a lot of them with air conditioning. This particular unit was called a polar air unit, and these would have been put on by the dealer after your Edsel was delivered to the dealer from the factory. The dealer would have installed this unit, and it would have been a regular factory warranted unit. And it has a unique control panel. It's under the dash, and it blows quite cold.
It does okay.
Cold. You could hang meat in that car.
When you look at the exterior of this car, you can see that it looks a lot different from the 58 and the 59 that we've been seeing.
Yeah, it does. You know, Edsels were not selling as well as they had hoped the first 2 years, and come the third year, they tried to cut the budget for redesigning, and they basically took the 1960 Ford look and made some modifications to it to come up with a unique Edsel design. The biggest difference, of course, is no horse collar grille in the front here.
Right.
That was something that Edsel was criticized for, and they were made fun of, and Henry Ford II just said, that's it.
I've heard enough of this, right?
No more horse collar grills. He gave the design team an opportunity to come up with something different. They call this the hourglass design because it kind of looks like, you know, sideways hourglass.
Yeah. You know, as luck would have it, you own the 60 model, which was the model when they were actually phasing out. But fortunately for you, they didn't make many of these, so the car that you have is kind of a rarity, isn't it?
It's extremely rare. They only made a total of about 2,800 1960 Edsels in total. They only did production for about 2 months and ceased production on November 19th of 1959, actually. And of the 2,800 1960 Edsels, they only built 76 convertibles.
76 convertibles.
This is one of 76.
Wow. And so you don't have any idea how many there may be out there. There may be only a couple of dozen out there.
That's probably true. We have an idea that approximately 50 of them have been identified by their serial numbers as existing in one form or another. They may be in a junkyard or in a barn somewhere, but they've been identified as still existing. Roadworthy, you're probably right. There's maybe 30 or 40 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a gem then.
It's a nice car. It's a real collectible, and it draws a crowd anytime you go to a car show because most people will never see a 60 Edsel convertible in their life.
Yeah, it's terrific. Thanks. It's great to work it.
My pleasure.
Well, Janine Phipps, you are responsible for getting all these people here in Springfield,
correct.
Right? You headed up the effort to get the convention here and get them all here, get them lodging, get them a place to park their car and all that stuff.
Correct.
And interesting, you and your husband have a history with Edsels that go way back to your marriage, don't they?
Yes, we do. And my husband had one when I met him. And anyway, he had gotten so many traffic tickets. And so when we were supposed to, our wedding was supposed to be a particular weekend, and they showed up, his father showed up at a barber shop, and the priest there was in there too, and he said, I'm supposed to have a wedding this weekend, but the young man is supposed to be in jail. And so the judge happened to be in there too, and so he said, well, we'll try to fix that. So the weekend after we got married, he had to go spend the weekend in jail. Then they did jail time for tickets, not just a fine, you know.
Man.
So anyway, yeah, so then after that, we switched cars. I had a Plymouth, and he had this one. The policeman used to follow him all through town. So they finally discovered that he wasn't driving the car anymore, and so they never bothered me. So, but anyway, I always said we got rid of that car then, and so then when we got another one, I said that was his first love. He always had that another Edsel, so we really
well, if
enjoyed
anybody
it.
thought Edsels couldn't go fast, boy, your husband proved that wrong, didn't he?
He proved that wrong. He used to, and you know, the other one he had push-button drive.
Yeah.
So he would drive down the road as fast as he'd go, and he'd shove it in reverse, and then the car would just, and the tires would just squeal. I said, would you do that to one of yours now? And he said, absolutely not.
Janine, thank you, and thank all your members here for letting us talk to them and show their cars.
Oh, I'm sure I'm pleased that you came out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, don't expect to see the Edsels Owners Club at Springfield next year. Their bylaws say that they go from the West Coast to the Midwest to the East Coast each year. But there's a chance they'll be back here sometime in the future. With another Illinois story in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send 1995 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.